Hello, I'm Jacob and you're watching the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. Today for the second virtual blade show video, I want to take this opportunity to show you all of my custom knives. All of my custom knives are from makers that either would have been at Blade Show or deserve to be at Blade Show, and that's why I thought it might be a good and easy way to share their work with people that are interested in custom knives, because that's a big part of what Blade Show is about. And sadly, with the people who are doing Blade Show videos, essentially virtual Blade Show videos, not many custom makers are being showcased. And the reason is, obviously Blade Show is obviously for manufacturers. I don't want to take anything from them, but manufacturers have more resources when it comes to doing videos and podcasts and stuff, and it's easier for them to make footage and get stuff out there, and that's great. I just want to make sure that the little guy isn't left behind. And so I have a few more virtual Blade Show videos scheduled to come up. They're going to take a little while because your custom knife makers are typically very busy, very overworked, and also making videos and filming stuff isn't exactly their specialty, and a lot of them are a one-man shop. So here we go. Without more blathering, I just want to show you my custom collection. Before I do that, really quick, I do want to say I've owned a lot more custom knives than just this, and a lot of them have been sold and traded off because they just weren't up to snuff. They weren't good enough. And you'll see that a lot with custom knives. And if you know what you're looking at, you'll go through Blade Show and half of the custom makers there just aren't quite there yet. And a lot of them will never get there. And that's okay. It's a path for all of us, and reaching the top tier of custom makers isn't always the goal, and I don't believe that it should be. But these knives that I have, I truly believe each one of them is made by people who are incredibly talented and who you can really trust to make a really good knife. So let's check it out. All right, so just to get this out of the way, because I'm sure people will either be asking or commenting about it. Yes, this is my living room and this is my coffee table, so I've really got no shame. I did actually think a long time about how I wanted to do this video, if I actually wanted to make it look like it was at Blade Show or do a bunch of crazy stuff, and I've just simply decided that none of that is really necessary for what I want to accomplish here. So this is it. This is my full custom knife collection for 2020. We're going to start out with, over here, my LaRocca Knives Jacobs EDC. We'll do it like this. All right, you can see he has a nice logo on there, but you can barely see it because of how etched this blade is. This is a burlap micarta scales, full flat grind, 1/8 inch, 80 CRV2. This was, I think that LaRocca has, he still has a very similar style, but his knives, to me now, I think he rounds the handles a little bit more. I don't want to say he's come a long way, in that this knife isn't a good representation of his work, but he has come a long way, I think, in refining his style, and he's also doing a lot of testing with his steels and hardnesses that other people don't do. He's not just researching and going with it. He's doing a lot of first-hand testing. He really is a first-rate knife maker, especially considering his price range. And so I'm going to basically, to keep this simple, you know, when I talk about a maker, I'm going to talk about $1, $2, or $3 signs. prices change. Prices are subjective. With custom makers, there's a lot of different options you can choose. And so a knife like this, of this size, $1 sign, I think is about $100 to $150. So this would be a $1 sign maker. And so what you're getting is you're getting absolutely wonderful performance. You're getting a lot of choices with steels. You're getting perfectly centered and straight blade edge, good edge geometry. This knife isn't anything excessively fancy, and as far as I know, Paul LaRocca doesn't do anything excessively fancy. I don't think he has any $1,000 knives made out of extremely exotic materials. He does working grade knives, and so I'm going to put his price point for a good custom maker at $1 sign. LaRocca is a great place to go. He mostly sells on Etsy. I'll put a link to him in the description box below, along with everybody who makes here. An excellent entry-level price point for a custom knife, and any of these knives could be heirloom knives that you pass down for generations, but your $1 sign price point is simply going to be wonderful user knives and knife makers who want to keep their prices low and who just try and offer the most bang for the buck. This is a sheath that he made, so he makes his own sheaths here, and the retention is not quite what it used to be. It's still good. At this point, I prefer a little bit more, but I will say that LaRocca's sheaths are exceptional for a knife maker who makes his own sheaths, and if I were a betting man, I would bet that they have only gotten better with time. This is certainly a sheath that I would not mind paying a custom maker to make. It's just very nice. So that is Paul LaRocca. And as of right now, he mostly sells on Etsy. A great guy. You can contact him. Square spine. I mean, just a really cool knife. Really fun to carry. It's really great. And he named it the Jacobs EDC because I asked for a small knife in ADC RV2, a tough, easy to sharpen steel. And that's not what most people want. And so I think that's just kind of where he went with it. Just a really chill, low-key, really cool dude making knives. This isn't a living for him. As I understand it, I believe Paul is retired and he enjoys making knives. So I don't think he's ever going to become a full-time production knife maker or psycho-grade custom or anything like that. I think he's just a dude that likes making knives and sharing his work and his passion. And you know, that's just really cool. Next up is the Tactical Pterodactyl medium camper. This guy here, oh, by the way, I'm not going to go too much into specs because this is really about the knife maker and not about the knife. And the knife is just an example that I can give you of the knife maker's work. Off the top of my head, I believe this knife is 52100. It is 52100, hardened to 61 or 62 HRC. And so it's one of the hardest knives that I own. This handle pattern here, it looks somewhat aggressive, but I have never had a hot spot from it. Same with the jimping. Now, I haven't used this as a hardcore bushcraft knife. I've made some feather sticks and stuff for it, but mostly I use this as an EDC knife, and I'm cutting and slicing like you would with a normal pocket knife. Fit and finish, absolutely wonderful. This is another knife maker that's pushing the limits on different steels, doing his own testing. Now, Paul LaRocca does a lot of steels. Tactical Pterodactyl, I believe, does more steels and really more premium steels. You'll see him doing some crazy stuff that I'm not even familiar with, but he does your Z-Wear and all kinds of cool stuff. Really awesome guy. I would put him in the $1 sign range, maybe coming up close to the $2 sign range for his knives. Off the top of my head, I believe this one was about $180. It came with this sheath. This sheath is a little bit more simple than the LaRocca sheath, but it's absolutely usable. Very nice retention. Again, this sheath is probably nicer than half of your low-grade custom Kydex makers that are out there. Again, very simple, but it's good. It's just a good deal. It carries wonderfully. So I got a lot of comments about this knife saying it was going to be a useless pry bar. Now Tactical Pterodactyl does make some pry bar knives, and he knows that he makes pry bar knives. I think he makes some knives like this. They're like 3/8 of an inch thick at the spine, and they're just ridiculous. But he does those for fun, and I don't think he takes them too seriously. Whereas this knife at 1/8 of an inch thick, it looks chunky, it looks tanky, but it's absolutely slicey. The edge geometry is wonderful. I actually beat on this knife a bit and messed up the edge, and he was happy to fix it for me. He really takes care of his customers. Great guy. He's got a website and Instagram, and I haven't done any videos on this knife in too long, or on him. Really, I need to buy another one of his knives, and Paul LaRocca too. I wish I could buy more from all these guys. Just a phenomenal carry blade. I've loved every bit of the ownership experience with Tactical Pterodactyl. And again, the edge geometry, thickness, straightness, centering, plunge lines is perfect. I mean, it's just really excellent. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck with Tactical Pterodactyl. He does a little bit more style stuff than Paul LaRocca does, and so I think he's a little bit more expensive, but he's also got a little bit of a different market, and still just a phenomenal value. All right, probably one knife that people are wondering about because they haven't seen much of it is this guy right here. This was made by my friend Jose Amoedo. I probably just butchered his last name. I met Jose at the boot camp for History Channel's Alone for season 2. And me and him talked quite a bit and really hit it off as really the only two knife people there. Jose is an amazing guy, and he shot this caribou up there in Canada. Him and his wife harvested this burl. He forged the knife. He ground the knife. He sent it off, I believe, for heat treat. But he did every bit of this, and he did it all by hand. This is the most expensive knife that I have personally purchased. And it was absolutely a bargain. Now, I'm showing this to you because this is my custom knives. You hear that click into birch and leather like Kydex? Like the sheath is amazing. Just amazing. He hand-tooled all of this. Being that I'm Northern European, this is some patterns with the acorns and stuff that were commonly seen on ancient Northern European stuff. It's set up for plainsman carry, which I like. This is my unit insignia for the 173rd Airborne, who I deployed with. And this knife redefined for me what a bushcraft knife should be and can be. It's just absolutely amazing. It's 5160. He shares my viewpoints on steels and performance and desirable attributes. It's got a zero grind, and it's just amazing. I don't use it a lot, but I'm going to take it on an epic adventure, and I want the adventure that I take this knife on to be worth it. Like, the adventure that I go on with this knife, if I come back and this knife is completely destroyed, I want the experience to be worth it. This knife stays in my safe, my gun safe. Very special to me. The next knife that's become very special to me, this is actually one of my first customs, and it's the oldest custom that I have here. If you're watching and you're familiar with my channel, you probably recognize that symbol right there. This is a Peter Kohler Custom, Dark Timber Custom Knives. And he did a little bit of jimping here for me, which you will not find usually. This is obviously a forged knife that Pete actually made for me. So after American Sniper came out and people were talking trash about the military, Michael Moore or something like that, Peter did a giveaway for veterans, and I won it. And that's how I ended up getting to know Peter a little better. Peter, I need to back up a little bit. The Puko there from Jose. Jose's not a knife maker, so you really can't get it. So there's no dollar symbol there. Peter, I believe, is in the upper $2 symbol range, potentially close to the $3 signs. And up at that point, what you should be paying for is excellent performance, perfect edge geometry, and a very usable knife that's also beautiful. And Peter, I believe, does do $3 symbol knives as well that are just basically showpieces and just works of art. Every knife that he makes is a work of art. But I'm not 100% familiar with his pricing, but I believe he does still make user-priced, high-end user-priced custom knives. The difficulty is getting onto his custom list. He's so in demand that if you want one of his knives, you've got to wait till the time is right to contact him, and then you've got to get onto his list, and it's not an easy thing to do. And things could have changed. Peter could certainly be solidly in the $3 price range now because his work is so desirable. And to go with that, this is an ancient positive made leathercraft sheath from Dave Puzon, and I haven't babied it. I did partially process a deer with this knife. Wasn't the best skinner. The skinners that I have were better for it just because they had hyper thin edges, but that wasn't the point of this knife anyways, so whatever. So you've got some discoloration from blood on here that I didn't even clean off. Whatever. This sheath carries great. I don't think that this is a good representation of Dave's work, even though it's excellent, but his work has completely changed style now, I believe. I think that he's grown so much as a leather maker that although this is a great sheath, what he makes now is so much different that this probably shouldn't be an example of his work. It only gets better. He is an artist. All right, this is from a local knife maker. And this is really cool to me because it has more of a rustic flair. Night Knife Co. Again, it's local. This is in your $1 symbol category of user knives. And so the jimping and the style of it is, like I said, kind of rustic. I don't necessarily want to say rough. That's the wrong word. It's an aesthetic appeal that it's just rustic. However, and so when you get a knife that is rustic, but the edge is jacked up and thick or not straight or not centered, then your rustic knife is crap. However, this knife has a wonderful edge. This is hollow ground. I've had a great time using it. It certainly is rustic because it's got great edge geometry, nice straight edge, and we're going to be using the crap out of this thing. We might end up breaking it, but I doubt it. I think this thing's going to be about as tough as it can get for a hollow ground knife, and there's just something super appealing to me. It's just a belt knife that is just great to use. Just good edge geometry, good handle, good size. It's just a worker. And he did his own sheath as well. And it's leather and it works well. The sheath I don't think is as refined as the knife itself. It's certainly usable though, and I will not be replacing it. You've got a little bit of slop here. And so at the end of the day, I think a lot of knife makers have to choose whether they're going to make knives or whether they're going to make sheaths. And if you choose that you're going to do both and get better at doing both, it's very difficult to do. So to do a scout carry sheath that works, that's nice, that's usable, and that comes in at this price point is excellent, but I'll say the sheath isn't quite as nice as the knife is, in my opinion. We'll probably do some kind of leather dye on the sheath or something like that, and I'll probably play around with it, but I really like this knife from Night Knife Co., and it's made by a good old boy down here in Kentucky, which is cool to me. All right, next up in a similar category as that is this is the Sheath handmade Polish tracker 01 steel. Sheath handmade, I would say, comes in the high $1 to mid $2 symbol range. And obviously this comes from Poland. What he wanted to do was take his crusher knife, which is an existing model, and put a quarter round and a tracker edge on the back side of the blade so that you could have the benefits of owning a tracker without breaking the primary edge. Now, for people who've haven't been following for a while, that's why I don't like trackers, is I can make enough feathers quickly enough to get my fire going without a quarter round. There are other uses for the quarter round. I'm not ignorant to that fact. I don't do those things enough for me to break my primary edge, because when I'm using my knife, I like using the full edge. So he realized that himself and wanted to do something different. This is what he came up with. This was actually a prototype. So he sent this to me asking me to give him my opinion on the blade. And so I did give him some notes. In the future, if he makes more of these, I believe that he'll change a few key things, but what I want you to take away from it is the reason I absolutely love this knife. There are a few things that are a bit different than my typical taste. The edge is a bit thicker than my normal taste in knives. And the tip is indestructibly thick. See if I can capture it. Holy chunkiness, you ain't going anywhere with that sucker. However, even with varying grinds and edge thickness, he keeps that edge perfectly straight, and the ergonomics of the handle are so good that the knife is absolutely a joy to use. It feels like it's just part of your hand. And so Sheath Handmade offers such an incredible value for the money because of his fit, his finish, and his style. Everything that he does is my jam. I mean, I just love his work. He was one of my dream makers. He still is. I mean, he's on the grail list for me. And he did this sheath, removable dangler, ferro rod loop, horizontal carry, normal belt carry, whatever, snap on either side. I like the concept of the snap on either side. It's always worked well for me in use, but in theory, I'm not the biggest fan because I would rather have the side that I'm never going to use be sewn. But it makes good sense, and so far in use, it's worked great for me. I'm getting ahead of myself. For use, I've been wanting to do an adventure specifically designated for this knife for quite some time now. I haven't been able to do it yet, just because my life has changed a bit since then, but it will happen. I absolutely love the knife. I love everything about it. The aesthetic, fit and finish, it's great, and the quality is just way up there. And we're going to wrap it up here with probably what would be considered my most badass custom knife here. And this is the Diamondback Country Knives Razorback X. Now, Bobby does some $3 work, and he does some mid $2 work. So what you get, what this is CPM 3V. You get premium powdered steel, as tough as it comes, with micarta handles, and you're looking at about $700 with the sheath and the nice box and everything on a unit like this. You could downgrade. I don't like using terms like that because there's almost not such a thing as a downgrade in steel or an upgrade in steel, depending on your use. I won't get into that right now. But you can downgrade the steel down to like an 80 CRV2. I think it'd save you about $100 or so. So you're definitely getting up there in price, although his smaller knives are obviously more affordable, and you can get those user grade 80 CRV2 or whatever steel micarta. But you can also upgrade, and you can go for the 3V or crazy amazing San Maya steels or Damascus. He does some, like, I think he does the Mammoth Tooth. He does amazing handle work. What caught my eye about him at Bladeshow 2019 is his attention to detail, and like all of his handles were book matched, so they look like they just run right into each other, and you can tell that the guy is absolutely detail oriented when he's making these knives. Nice square spine, nice beautiful straight thin edge, and it is thin. And with the CPM 3V, you have the toughness to have a thin edge like that. And this is, I don't know if I mentioned it, the Razorback X. When you have a thin edge like that, with an 8-inch blade and a nice handle like this, the amount of work that you can accomplish for the amount of weight and size of the knife is awe-inspiring. This knife's going to get used a lot in the near future, and we will have some chopping comparisons with this knife in the near future, and this will be one of the iconic knives of this channel. In fact, every single knife here will be really an iconic part of this channel for my custom collection, because every single one of them just is amazing and has a great place. This sheath was made by Klein Leather and Klein Sheaths, and it's good. It's a simple bushcraft style sheath, and it's exactly what a lot of people want in a sheath. And so I will be reviewing the knife with this sheath for a while. This sheath is not exactly my style of sheath. It's just an aesthetic and personal thing. So we're going to test the quality of the sheath, which I already think is quite good. And this is a prototype. There will be a few changes in the future, but I think I'm planning on sending this knife to Michael Spaniers. He does some amazing leather work that it's just my style. That's all it is. That's all I'm here to say. On my production knives, all of my favorite knives get custom sheaths. As you can see here with my custom knives, a lot of them already have good sheaths, and a lot of them probably won't get custom sheaths. And that's part of the good thing about buying a custom, is you have some changes, whatever, what have you. However, the Diamondback Country Knives is so epic, and it's exactly the kind of knife that I use the most, really, for YouTube and adventures. It's a larger chopper knife, so it's just going to be, it's going to get custom sheath because it's going to be exactly what I'm looking for, because it's worth it. It's amazing. So again, okay, all of these makers, except for Jose probably, will be in the description box below. I wish all of you guys could go to Bladeshow and get your hands on these knives in person. Maybe when I do a bushcraft trip, an invitational, I'll bring these out and hang out with you guys, and we'll use some knives. But whatever the case, please check out each of these knife makers. Please follow them. Almost all of them are on Instagram. Most of them have a Facebook. Some of them have a website. If the knife on the table isn't exactly your style, every one of these makers does things a little bit different sometimes and can suit different tastes to some degree. You know, if you're like, man, I really like this tactical pterodactyl, but I would like a knife that's a little bit bigger. I don't want any jimping, and I hate orange, but man, that handle looks really cool. Well, guess what? He's a custom maker, and so he's got other models, and he can make that happen. And that's part of what's so great about custom knives. These are the knives that I've kept. Every one of them has a place on my shelf because they're so good and they offer such performance. So this has been a long video, guys, but you know, it's long because I care. Sadly, being that it's long, probably less people will watch it, but I think that these knives, these are makers that you guys need to check out because they're just so good. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. You know, I'll probably do a Custom Knives 2021 video next year sometime because I slowly add knives to the list as time goes on. And this winter, I plan on putting a pound in on all of my knives because I'm going to have a lot more time and a lot more adventuring to do. So, share, subscribe, but most importantly, check these guys out. They'll be in the description box below. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a blessed day.